Rain dripped from the bridge like a broken faucet. The city above was alive with lights and noise, but beneath it, in the cold shadows, lay a man named Tommy Collins. He was 50 years old, but looked older. His beard was grey, his coat torn, his shoes full of holes. A small cardboard sign leaned against his leg. It said, "Hungry, but still human." Every night was the same. Cars rushed by overhead, and the sound of tires on wet pavement filled the air. Tommy had learned to live with the noise, the smell of damp concrete, and the ache of an empty stomach. He used to be a carpenter once, a good one too. He built tables and cabinets, things that lasted. But that was a lifetime ago. His workshop had burned down 5 years earlier. He lost everything: his tools, his savings, and soon after, his home. When his wife got sick and passed away, he stopped trying. The streets became his world. Still, Tommy wasn't bitter. He talked to stray cats, shared crusts of bread with other homeless folks, and helped newcomers find shelter. "We look after each other," he would say, even when he had nothing left to give. One cold evening, as he searched the alleys for scraps, he found something strange: a mattress lying near a dumpster behind an old furniture store. It was dirty but thick and looked almost new. Tommy looked around. No one was there. "Guess someone's trash is my treasure," he muttered. It all his strength to drag the mattress under the bridge. The thing was heavier than it looked. "Must be full of springs," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. But he didn't care. For the first time in months, he would sleep on something softer than the ground. That night, he wrapped himself in an old blanket and lay down. The Took mattress felt warm, almost comforting. The steady sound of rain tapping on the bridge above lulled him to sleep. For once, he dreamed, not of hunger or cold, but of his old workshop. The smell of sawdust filled his mind, and he could almost hear his wife's laughter again. When he woke up the next morning, sunlight peeked through the cracks of the bridge. Birds chirped nearby, and the city hummed to life. For a moment, Tommy forgot he was homeless. He stretched and smiled. Then he noticed something odd. The mattress seemed lumpy. He pressed his hand down and felt something hard inside, something that wasn't a spring. "Strange," he murmured. He pushed harder. The shape felt square, flat, almost like a book or a box. Curiosity got the better of him. He found a loose thread on the corner of the mattress and began pulling. The fabric tore slightly, revealing a small gap. Inside, he could see something dark and made of paper. He pulled a little more. His breath caught in his throat. There, hidden deep within the stuffing, was a bundle of cash. Real money, thick and wrapped with a rubber band. Tommy's heart started racing. He looked around quickly, afraid someone might see. But he was alone. He pulled out the bundle and stared at it with wide eyes. The notes were crisp. Hundreds, maybe thousands. He didn't count them. He couldn't. His hands were shaking too much. He stuffed the money back in, sewed the tear shut as best as he could, and sat frozen, staring at the mattress. The city kept moving above him. Horns honking, people laughing. But Tommy heard none of it. In that moment, the man who had nothing was sitting on something that could change his life forever. He whispered to himself, barely audible over the sound of the wind. "What am I supposed to do now?" The morning came slow and grey. Cold air slipped under the bridge, and Tom woke up shivering. His back didn't hurt as much as usual, thanks to the mattress. He stretched, rubbed his eyes, and listened to the sound of the city waking up. Cars honking, people shouting, dogs barking in the distance. He sat up and smiled a little. He said to himself, "Best sleep I've had in months." He looked around again, half expecting someone to jump out and shout, "Gotcha!" But there was no one, only the sound of cars far above and the whisper of the wind through the bridge supports. "This can't be real," he whispered. He smelled the money, old, dusty, but definitely real. He took one bill out and held it up to the light. The face of the president stared back at him. He laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound that echoed off the concrete. "Maybe I'm dreaming," he said. "Yeah, that's it. Just another dream." But when he pinched his arm, it hurt. He wasn't dreaming. For the next hour, Tom sat there staring at the open mattress. His thoughts raced in every direction. Where did this come from? Who would hide this? Maybe a drug dealer? A thief? A dead man? Fear crept in. If someone had hidden it here, maybe they'd come back for it. Maybe they'd already been looking. He quickly pushed the cash back inside and tried to close the slit with a piece of duct tape he found nearby. He dragged the mattress deeper under the bridge where it couldn't be seen. But his heel art wouldn't slow down. His mind kept spinning. With that kind of money, he could buy new clothes, rent a place, start a business. He could even find Linda again. But another voice inside him whispered, "What if it's stolen? What if you get caught?" Tom sat on the cold ground, his head in his hands. He wanted to cry and laugh at the same time. For a man who had nothing, suddenly having everything felt heavy, heavier than the mattress itself. He stayed there for hours, trying to decide what to do. As night fell, he lit a small fire and stared at the mattress, his heart full of fear and hope. The city lights flickered above him like stars he couldn't reach. Tom whispered, "Maybe this is my second chance, or maybe it's a trap." And as the fire burned low, the money inside the mattress waited, silent, powerful. Tom didn't sleep much that night. Every sound made him jump. The wind, the splash of water, even a passing car. He kept thinking someone might come for the mattress. He lay with one arm over it like it was his only friend in the world. When morning came, his head pounded. The thought of the money wouldn't leave him alone. It whispered to him like a voice in his ear. "You could change your life. You could start again. You don't have to live like this anymore." But another voice answered, quieter, darker.
"It's not yours. Someone will come for it. You'll end up in jail,"
he argued with himself as he sat by his little fire, roasting a piece of stale bread he'd found. His hands shook. He looked at the people walking above the bridge and wondered what they would do if they found that mattress. Probably take it without a second thought. Around noon, another homeless man came by. His name was Rico. Thin, sharp-eyed, always wearing a dirty brown coat. Rico and Tom sometimes shared food, but Tom never trusted him much. Rico was known to steal when he was desperate. "Mornin', Tommy boy," Rico said, grinning with half his teeth missing. "You look nervous. Got something to hide?" Tom stiffened. "Just tired, that's all." Rico squatted beside the fire, warming his hands. "Tired, huh? You been looking different lately. I seen you smiling yesterday. Ain't much to smile about around here." Tom forced a laugh. "Guess I had a good dream." Rico's eyes narrowed. "Dream, huh? Funny thing, I saw you dragging that old mattress here the other night. Looks heavy for trash." Tom's chest tightened. "Yeah, it's better than the ground, that's all." Rico smirked. "Maybe. Or maybe there's more to it." He leaned closer. "You hiding something, Tom?" Tom's heart thudded. "You're imagining things, Rico." "Leave it." Rico raised his hands, pretending to surrender. All right. No need to get jumpy, just talking. He stayed for a while, humming to himself, before finally walking away. But Tom could feel Rico's eyes on his back long after he was gone. The next few days, Tom couldn't rest. He kept moving the mattress, hiding it in different spots under the bridge. He couldn't risk anyone finding it. Each time he touched the money, the same wave of fear and excitement hit him. It felt like power and poison. One night, hunger pushed him to take a risk. He pulled out a few bills from the stash, cleaned them the best he could, and walked to a small store. He bought food, soap, and a cheap new shirt. The shopkeeper looked suspicious at the old bills, but took them anyway. Tom ate like a king that night. Hot soup, real bread, a piece of meat. He hadn't tasted that in years. Tears filled his eyes as he ate, but when he returned to the bridge, he saw something that froze his blood. Footprints near where he had hidden the mattress. Someone had been there. He looked around in panic. The firelight flickered across the shadows. Then he saw Rico standing near the wall, smoking a cigarette and smiling. "Nice shirt, Tom," Rico said softly. "Looks like you came into some luck." Tom's throat went dry. "Get away from here, Rico." Rico took a drag, his eyes gleaming. "Maybe I will. Or maybe you'll share your luck with a friend." Tom clenched his fists. He knew then that his secret was no longer safe. As the wind howled through the bridge, fear and temptation warred inside him. He had found something that could save him. But now, it might destroy him. The night was cold and wet again. A light fog covered the streets, making everything look like a dream. Or a nightmare. Tommy sat under the bridge, staring at the mattress that had changed his life. His hands were shaking. He had counted the money earlier. Bundles of cash, all wrapped tight, smelling of old paper and fear. He didn't know where it came from, but deep in his heart, he felt it wasn't clean money. Then he heard footsteps. At first he thought it was just another homeless man looking for shelter. But when he peeked out, he saw two men in dark coats near the dumpster. One of them carried a flashlight, the other had a gun tucked under his jacket. They spoke in low, angry voices. "I told you, Vinny," one said. "The mattress was right here." Somebody must have taken it. Tommy's blood ran cold. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. He pressed his back against the concrete wall and prayed they wouldn't come closer. But the flashlight beam swept across the bridge. "There!" the man shouted. "By the riverbank." Tommy grabbed the mattress and pulled it with all his strength. It was heavy, soaked from the rain, but fear gave him power. He dragged it through the mud, his feet slipping, his breath coming fast. The men started running toward him, yelling, "Stop right there!" He didn't stop. He ran down the narrow path behind the bridge, his old boots splashing in puddles. The mattress bounced behind him like a stubborn animal. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he had to get away. The city was half asleep. Cars passed now and then, their lights flashing across wet buildings. Tommy turned into a dark alley, panting hard. He could hear the men shouting in the distance, their voices echoing off the walls. He found a broken door leading into an abandoned building, once a small factory, now a ghost. He pulled the mattress inside and collapsed beside it. His chest burned, his throat dry. He pressed his ear to the ground. Silence, then footsteps again, faint but getting closer. He needed to hide it. He tore open another side of the mattress and stuffed the money bundles deep into an old crate nearby. Then he kicked some trash over it. When the footsteps entered the building, Tommy lay still in the shadows, pretending to sleep. A beam of light passed over his face. "Just another bomb," a voice muttered. "Let's go." The mattress is gone. When the door finally closed again, Tommy let out a long breath. His body trembled from exhaustion. He looked at the torn mattress, the secret now gone from it, and whispered, "You almost killed me." That night, as he sat in the dark, his mind was full of noise. He thought about the money, the danger, and the men who would surely come again. He could run, disappear, start over somewhere far away. But he also thought of Rosa, the kind woman who shared bread with him every week. What would she think if she saw what he'd done? He looked up at the cracked ceiling. "Maybe this is my test," he said softly. "Maybe this is the price for a second chance." The mattress, now empty, lay beside him like a dead thing. But the money was still there, hidden, and with it, a new storm waiting to come. For the next few days, Tom lived like a man walking on thin ice. Every sound made him flinch. Every knock on the motel wall sent his heart racing. He kept the backpack of money hidden under the loose floorboard beside the bed. During the day, he'd walk around town pretending to be just another traveler. But his eyes were always searching. For danger. For Rico. For anyone who might know. He couldn't stop thinking about the news story. The stolen van. The missing $200,000. The way the reporter's voice had said, "The money was never recovered." Now it was sitting in his motel room. Some nights he couldn't sleep. He'd lie in the dark, listening to cars pass by, whispering to himself, "Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's not the same money," but deep down, he knew. One morning, he walked to a nearby cafe for breakfast. He sat by the window, sipping coffee, trying to look normal. Then, through the glass, he saw something that made his stomach twist. A black car, parked across the street. 2 men sat inside. They weren't looking at him, but they weren't looking at anything else either. Tom's hands began to shake. He forced himself to finish his coffee, left a tip, and walked out slowly. Not running, but not relaxed. He turned the corner and glanced back. The car was still there. To the motel right away. He walked through alleys, across a park, down side streets until he lost sight of the car. By the time he returned, his shirt was soaked with sweat. That night, he locked the door and pushed a chair under the handle. He sat awake until sunrise, staring at the floorboard that hid the money. The next day, a knock came. 3 short taps. "Tommy boy," said a familiar voice. "Open up, it's your old friend Rico." Tom froze. Rico's voice, smooth, mocking, dangerous. He looked through the curtain. Rico stood outside the door, his dirty brown coat still the same, but his smile was colder than ever. Tom opened the door a crack. "What do you want, Rico?" Rico's eyes gleamed. "I just came to see how you're doing." "Nice place you got. You must have come into some real luck." Tom's grip tightened on the door. "Go away, Rico." "I don't have anything for you." "Oh, I think you do," Rico said softly. "See? Word gets around. People been talking. A homeless man finds a mattress, disappears, then shows up clean and living good. You think I'm stupid?" Tom's blood went cold. "I don't want trouble," he said. Rico grinned. "Then don't make any." "Give me a piece of that treasure, and I'll forget I ever saw you." Tom felt cornered. He thought about grabbing the backpack and running, but Rico looked ready for that. His eyes were sharp, hungry. "Fine," Tom said at last. "Wait here." He lifted a few stacks of bills from the hiding place and threw them toward Rico. The cash hit the floor, scattering across the dusty carpet. "There," Tom said, his voice tight. "That's all you're getting." Rico stared at the money, then back at Tom. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You think I came all this way for pocket change?" He stepped inside, uninvited, closing the door behind him with a soft click. The chair, still wedged under the handle, made a small scrape against the floor as Rico kicked it aside. "I know how much was in that van, Tommy boy," Rico went on, circling him like a wolf. 200 grand. You think I can't smell it? You always were bad at hiding things." Tom's mind raced. The backpack was still under the floorboard, a few feet away, but might as well have been miles. He had no weapon, no plan, nothing but fear and adrenaline. "Look, Rico," Tom said, trying to steady his voice. "You don't know what you're getting into. That money's marked. They're looking for it. You take it, you're done." Rico chuckled low. "You think I'm scared of a few cops?" He took another step closer. The light from the window caught the edge of something shiny in his hand. A knife. Small, but wicked. Tom's breath caught. His body went cold. Rico leaned in, his breath hot and sour. "I'll ask one more time. Where's the rest?" Tom's eyes darted to the floorboard. Rico followed his gaze. A flicker of triumph crossed Rico's face. "There it is." Before Tom could move, Rico lunged. Tom reacted on instinct, grabbed the coffee mug from the nightstand, and smashed it across Rico's face. The knife clattered to the floor. Rico roared, clutching his cheek, blood spilling between his fingers. Tom didn't think. He ripped up the floorboard, snatched the backpack, and bolted for the door. "Tommy!" Rico shouted behind him. "You can't run forever!" Tom hit the parking lot, heart pounding, the morning sun blinding him. He didn't look back. He just ran. Past the diner, past the gas station, down the highway shoulder until his legs burned and his lungs screamed. When he finally stopped, he was miles from the motel. The backpack felt heavier than ever. He dropped to his knees by the roadside, staring at the dust blowing across the asphalt. He knew Rico wouldn't stop, and now, neither could he. Tommy woke to the steady beep-beep of a heart monitor. The ceiling above him was white. The air smelled of medicine and disinfectant. For a long moment, he didn't know where he was. Then, pain shot through his ribs, and everything came rushing back. The gang, the fight, the mattress, Rosa's frightened face. He tried to sit up but winced. His arms were covered in bruises. One of his eyes was swollen shut. A nurse noticed him and smiled gently. "You're lucky to be alive, sir." "You were found in an alley. Someone called for help." "Who?" Tommy croaked. "We don't know," she said softly. "No name, just a phone call." Tommy stared at the ceiling again. Deep inside, he knew it had to be Rosa. Even after she betrayed him, she had saved him. The thought made his chest ache, not from pain, but from something heavier. Hours later, 2 police officers entered the room. One was tall and serious. The other looked kind but cautious. The taller one spoke first. "Mr. Collins, we need to talk about something important." Tommy nodded weakly. "It's about the money, isn't it?" The officers exchanged a glance. "Yes," the kind one said. "We've recovered a large amount of cash from a warehouse near the docks. We believe it was stolen during a robbery 2 years ago. Witnesses say you were seen with a mattress that might have contained some of that money." Tommy sighed. He could have lied. He could have said he knew nothing. But he was tired of running, tired of being afraid. He looked them in the eyes and said quietly, I found that mattress near a dumpster. I didn't know where the money came from at first. When I realized it was stolen, I didn't know what to do. I should have gone to the police, but... He hesitated, his throat tightening. I've been poor for so long. I just wanted to eat, to sleep like a person again. The kind officer nodded slowly. And what did you do with the money after that? Some of it was stolen from me, Tommy admitted, by people I thought were friends. The rest, I hid it. I can show you where the officers took notes. The taller one asked sharply, Did you spend any? Tommy thought of the bread he bought for Rosa, the coat, the night he finally slept warm. A little, he said. Enough to feel human again. The officers stepped aside and spoke quietly. After a few minutes, the kind one turned back. You did the right thing by telling us the truth. We'll need a statement, but you're not under arrest. Tommy stared at him in disbelief. I'm not. No. The officer smiled faintly. You're a witness, not a criminal. The men who owned that money are already in custody. For the first time in months, Tommy felt the weight in his chest lift. Tears blurred his vision. Thank you, he whispered. When the police left, the nurse brought him soup. As he ate slowly, he turned on the small TV beside his bed. A reporter's voice said, "Oh, a homeless man's honesty helped police recover stolen money from a major robbery case. Locals are calling him the honest, homeless hero." Tommy almost laughed, not out of pride, but disbelief. He had never been called a hero before. The next day, visitors came, strangers bringing clothes, food, even small donations. A carpenter offered him work in his shop once he healed. For the first time, people saw him as a man, not a beggar. That night, Tommy lay awake, staring out the hospital window at the city lights. He whispered to himself, I don't want fame. I just want a new start. He thought of Rosa again. Maybe one day he would find her and forgive her, because she too was part of this strange miracle, the story of a man, a mattress, and a second chance of life. Tommy left the hospital with a small bag of donated clothes and a paper envelope holding $30. The air outside felt cleaner than he remembered. The city looked the same, loud, busy, full of rushing people. But to him, it was brand new. Every sound, every color, every smell reminded him that he was still alive. The police had kept their word. They cleared his name, and the newspapers had already moved on to other stories. For once, Tommy could walk the streets without shame. The local shelter gave him a small bed, and the carpenter who had visited him, a kind man named Mr. Harlan, offered him a job sanding tables and repairing chairs. At first, Tommy's hands trembled when he picked up the tools. It had been years since he'd touched real wood, but soon the old rhythm came back. The soft scrape of sandpaper, the scent of sawdust, the feeling of shaping something broken into something beautiful again. Good work, Tommy, Mr. Harlan said one afternoon, smiling. You've got real skill. Ever think of running your own place one day? Tommy chuckled. Maybe in another life. Mr. Harlan patted his shoulder. Well, maybe this is your other life. That night, Tommy sat on the edge of his bunk in the shelter, staring at his rough, calloused hands. For the first time in years, they were tired from honest work, not from dragging garbage or fighting the cold. He whispered, Thank you. Not to anyone in particular, but to life itself. A few weeks later, the shelter held a small community dinner. People laughed, shared stories, and passed around food. Tommy was serving soup when a familiar voice stopped him in his tracks. Tommy? He turned, and there she was, Rosa. Her face was pale, her eyes red from tears. She looked thinner, older, weighed down by guilt. "Rosa," he said quietly, "you found me." She nodded, trembling. I don't deserve to stand in front of you." "What I did was terrible. I was scared, Tommy. They promised me safety. I didn't know they'd hurt you." He looked at her for a long moment. The old pain flickered inside him, but then something softer took its place. Understanding. "You saved me," he said. "You called the ambulance, didn't you?" Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "I couldn't let you die." Tommy smiled sadly. "Then we're even." She shook her head, crying harder. "You're too kind." He reached out and gently took her hand. "No, Rosa. I'm just done being angry. We've both lived too long in darkness. It's time we step out." They sat together that night, talking quietly while the others ate and laughed around them. It felt peaceful, like two lost souls finally finding home. A few months passed, and life slowly changed. Mr. Harlan helped Tommy rent a small workshop behind an old bakery. Tommy painted a sign himself. "New Beginnings. Handmade furniture by Tommy Collins." He started with little things: stools, shelves, picture frames. People from the neighborhood came to buy his work, often saying, "You're that man from the news, aren't you?" He would just smile and nod. "I'm just a carpenter," he'd reply, but deep down, he knew he was more than that now. One morning, Rosa arrived carrying coffee and a basket of pastries. "You need a helper?" she asked with a hopeful grin. Tommy laughed. "Always." And just like that, they began building a new life, one made of sawdust, sunlight, forgiveness, and second chances. The city that once turned its back on Tommy now welcomed him. And as he locked up the shop one evening, looking at the sign above the door, he whispered, "It wasn't the money that changed my life. It was what losing it taught me." He smiled, breathing in the warm scent of fresh wood, and walked home, not to a bridge or a hospital, but to a future he had built with his own hands. The morning sun poured gently through the window of New Beginnings, Tommy's small workshop. Dust danced in the golden light as he sanded the edge of a wooden table. Outside, the street was alive. Children laughing, cars passing, shopkeepers opening doors. It was an ordinary day, but to Tommy, it still felt like a miracle. It had been almost a year since the day he found the mattress full of money. The world had changed for him in ways he could never have imagined. He had a business, a clean room to sleep in, food on the table, and something even greater: peace in his heart. Rosa worked beside him now, painting small wooden toys for the children who often came with their parents. Her laughter filled the room, and sometimes Tommy would stop just to listen to it. It reminded him of how far they had both come. "You think too much," Rosa said, catching him staring at the sunlight. Tommy smiled. "Old habit. I used to stare at the sky under the bridge, wishing for a better life. Now I stare at the same sky, but just to say thank you." Rosa nodded softly. "We both got lucky." Tommy shook his head. "Not luck. Choices. I chose to do the right thing, even when it hurt. And you chose to make things right." Just then, the doorbell jingled. A young man in a blue jacket stepped in, holding something wrapped in a tarp. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Tommy Collins?" Tommy wiped his hands on his apron. "That's me. How can I help you?" The young man smiled. "I work for a recycling center near the old bridge. We've been clearing out trash and found this in a storage area. Your name was on a tag inside it." He pulled off the tarp. Tommy froze. It was the old mattress, worn, torn, and still stained from rain and mud, but unmistakable. His name, scrawled in faded marker, peeked from the fabric. Tommy laughed softly in disbelief. I can't believe it's still around. Rosa looked at him. What will you do with it? He thought for a moment, running his hand across the rough surface. I think I'll keep it here. It reminds me where I came from, and how far I've come. He placed it gently in the corner of the workshop, leaning it against the wall. For everyone else it was just an old, dirty mattress, but for Tommy it was the beginning of everything. Later that week, a journalist came to interview him for a local newspaper story titled From the Streets to Success. She asked him many questions about the money, the robbery, and how his life changed. But one question made him pause. If you could go back, she asked, would you take the money again? Tommy smiled thoughtfully. No, he said, because the real treasure wasn't inside the mattress. It was inside me all along, the will to start over. The money only gave me a chance to see who I really was. The journalist smiled, clearly moved. You've built something beautiful here. Tommy looked around the workshop, at Rosa, at the wood, at the sunlight spilling across the floor. Yes, he said softly. And I didn't build it alone. That evening, he closed the shop and walked through the quiet street. The air smelled of rain and earth. He passed the bridge where his story began. A stray cat crossed his path, and he stopped to give it a small piece of bread from his pocket. As the city lights flickered on, Tommy looked up at the sky and whispered, Thank you. For every cold night, every mistake, and every miracle. And when he turned to leave, the wind blew softly behind him, carrying the scent of wood and hope. The scent of a man who had once found a mattress full of money and discovered something far more valuable instead.